DIY holidays save you hundreds, but one wrong move and you'll spend more than a package deal. Here's 5 costly mistakes you must avoid. First up, hidden baggage fees. This is the number one trap with budget flights. You see a flight to Athens for £25 and think you've cracked the code, till you realise a cabin bag costs another £65. Suddenly that cheap flight is more expensive than an EasyJet flexi ticket. At that point you've got 2 choices, travel with just a personal item or cough up for the bag. I've gone all in on the personal item. I've had this £12 Norway bag from Amazon for 3 years. It's not pretty, but it's soft enough to squeeze under any airline seat, even when I cram more into it than I probably should. And honestly, I've been on more adventures than most people I know. But if you really can't live without a carry-on, here's the twist. Sometimes the so-called expensive airlines, British Airways, KLM, even Lufthansa, actually include it in the ticket price. So before you click book at that rock bottom price, just double check. You might find a non-budget option isn't that expensive at all, and you won't be the one wrestling with your suitcase in the Ryanair queue. Wrong airport, wrong savings. This is a classic DIY holiday blunder. Choosing the cheapest flight without looking at where it actually leaves from. That £20 saving looks great on Skyscanner till you realise the airport's 3-hour train journey, 2 buses and a small mortgage away. But trust me, I know this pain. I live on Anglesey, basically the land time forgot, and certainly the land that airlines forgot. Somehow I still end up driving past Manchester and Birmingham just to fly from London. That's right, 6 hours of motorway service station coffee that tastes like regret, and parking feels like that second mortgage. But maddeningly, sometimes it really is cheaper. But here's the maths, if you're travelling solo, all that extra petrol, parking, train fare, whatever, maybe a hotel, usually wipes out the saving before you've even made it to security. But if there are 2 or more of you, the saving doubles and suddenly that extra drive starts to look worthwhile. For example, you can fly from London to Athens for about 90 quid each. That same trip from Manchester, you're getting on for 200 quid each. That is a saving of, boom, over 200 quid. And that's just on one trip. Now 200 quid to me, I'm already doing 3 hours in a car to Manchester. It's only another couple of hours to Luton to save 200 quid. Well worth it. So the rule of thumb is don't just compare the prices, compare the total journey cost, because the only thing worse than spending a fortune in the airport bar is spending a fortune just getting to the airport bar in the first place. Let's face it, you're still going to have that airport pint selfie. Nighttime layovers. This one mostly bites when you're flying long haul. I'm always looking at Japan or Malaysia. I love Japan because I've been. Malaysia is definitely on my list. But here's the thing, the direct flight often works out cheaper in the end. Take Malaysia for example. British Airways will get you there direct in about 13 hours for around £700 return, baggage included. That's not bad. But then you see those tempting options that are £200 less. Sounds great until you notice the fine print. A layover in the Middle East or even China. Sounds exotic. Ooh, a mini adventure. But let's be honest, it's often a 2-hour layover. Fine, grab a coffee, stretch your legs, no problem. But the real bargains usually come with 8, 9, even 10 hour stopovers. That's not a layover, that's a part-time job sitting in an airport. And here's where it stings. Airports are not cheap. Sounds great, yeah, 8 hours, I can chill out, I can read, I can doom scroll. Have you ever looked at the people that are waiting on a layover in the airport? They look like they wish they were dead. Then you've got the overpriced bottled water, etc, etc. Push past 5 hours and you're starting to Google things to do in Doha in half a day. Step outside, suddenly you're paying for a visitor's visa, taxis, because you're hungry and slightly bored, lunch, so your £200 saving gone faster than a duty-free Toblerone. Now sometimes it does work. If you book both legs with the same airline, the connection can be seamless. When I went to Canada via Reykjavik, it was smooth as a very smooth thing. No stress, no wasted hours, just a quick hop and carry on. But unless you know exactly what you're signing up for, these long haul flights can end up costing you a lot more in money, sanity and the time you'll never get back. Then you've got the added possibility of lost luggage, misconnection, unless you're booking it with an airline that operates the spoke and hub model. For example, Flyplay used to do various flights into Reykjavik to connect with other Flyplay flights out of Reykjavik to North America. Spoke and hub, you can see how it works. Really good. If the incoming flight is delayed, the chances are they can sit on the outgoing flight because nobody wants to fly an empty aeroplane, do they? But if you're buying them on the Expedia or Skyscanner type market where you're buying separate tickets, if your incoming flight is late, your outgoing flight will be gone. Or worse, you're rushing and the baggage handlers don't rush as well. You end up in Japan and your luggage is still in Doha. Bit risky for me. Unless that saving is massive, try and go direct where you can. Next up, the no refund safety net. Now this one isn't glamorous, but it can bite harder than baggage fees not checking cancellation and refund terms. Package holidays usually have some sort of built-in protection if your hotel closes down or your flight gets cancelled. There is some form of safety net, but when you book DIY, it's all on you. Now here's the problem. Most people are so excited by the cheap price flashing on the screen and they smash that book it now button without even glancing at the small print. Then a family emergency pops up or the airline changes the schedule and suddenly you're sitting on £400 of non-refundable, non-changeable tickets to, well, nowhere. I've been there. You think you're saving money till you realise the thing you've booked is stress. And airlines aren't exactly famous for their customer service or understanding. Try ringing one of the low-cost carriers about a refund, it's like phoning your ex. They'll happily take your money, but you ain't getting anything back. The fix: spend an extra couple of minutes checking the cancellation terms. Sometimes the difference between non-refundable and flexible is as low as a tenner. And if you're booking accommodation, at least consider paying the extra couple of pound more for free cancellation. With Expedia, there are so many hotels that allow you to cancel up until midday on the day you arrive. I quite often play this one where I'll book a hotel I half fancy, just so I've got something locked in, and then closer to the time, see what bargains may or may not have come up. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. See, while I love a bargain, I love not throwing hundreds down the drain even more. Another thing you can do is to book on your credit card, especially the accommodation. It's not so easy with the flight. If you book on a credit card and you have a legitimate reason to cancel the hotel and they're not having any of it, you can always go to your card company. Won't always work, but it helps. The other thing is check your travel insurance. There's an awful lot of cancellations are covered, like sickness, delays getting there. I use a multi-trip policy and it does cover cancellation under certain circumstances. Not leaving enough time to get to the airport is not one of them. Next up, overpaying on hotels. This one drives me mad. People spend hours hunting for a bargain and then just book the first shiny hotel they see on Expedia. Don't get me wrong, Expedia's great. You've got big photos, 4 stars, fancy lobby, and suddenly the budget break costs more than a week in Spain. But here's the truth, most of the time, let's face it, you're not moving in forever. You need a clean room, a decent bed, and the right location. That's it. Personally, when I'm travelling, my hotel is basically a place to sleep that's close to the action. I never get back to the hotel before 10 o'clock at night, even when I'm flying out at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I don't need 7 pools, a rooftop DJ, or a breakfast buffet that looks like it could feed an army. I need somewhere central, safe, and affordable. But if a pool, gym, or spa is your idea of a holiday, there's no point taking the Ian option. Go for it, just be smart about it. Instead of splashing out on the city centre 5-star hotel, you can find these little luxuries a bit further out, usually in a bigger site, for half the price, if not even less. The trick is making sure the transport doesn't wipe out the saving. There's nothing luxury about standing on a bus for an hour just to get back to your hotel. And here's the kicker, the first price you see is rarely the best one. Hotels often charge less if you book direct. This is the crazy thing, Expedia gives you the name of the hotel. Loyalty schemes, cashback sites, even just clicking through Google Maps can save you up to 20%. But most people don't even check. They see the word deal on it and assume it must be the cheapest. So the fix, and I think this is the most important thing, is work out what you actually want from the hotel before you start looking. You know, if you're going to be out exploring all day, don't blow the budget on facilities you'll never use. If you want the extra, that's fine. Just make sure you're not paying more in taxis than you saved on the room. So there you go, 5 costly mistakes people make on booking DIY holidays and how you can avoid them. Get these right and you'll save yourself a fortune. Get them wrong and suddenly that cheap rate looks more expensive than a package holiday. If you want proof that DIY does work, check out my last video where I break down how I managed to book 9 trips for less than the price of one package deal. I'll link it here. And stick around because I've got more trips coming up. I'm taking Mum to York for a couple of nights. Weirdly, that's going to cost more than a weekend in Athens, but hey, she wants to go to York. Hunting down a sneaky solo trip for myself. I still haven't decided where, but it looks like Budapest and Riga are at the front of the race at the moment. And As you all know, I love Athens. I've taken Book, I've taken Mum. Poor little Sewin's missed out, so I might take her there for a pre-Christmas break in December if we can make it happen. And I think that'll wrap up the year for me as a budget traveller, but trust me, I've got some big plans for next year. If you fancy keeping up to date with some of my tips or seeing what I'm up to, subscribe, like and hit notifications. The notifications is the one that stops me disappearing off your algorithm. Thanks ever so much for watching, and we'll see you on Thursday.